So thanks to everybody for coming out for what we think is really the whole point of running campaigns, which is to build a strong force, and that's what we call the Green Party, building the force for peace, justice, democracy, and a green future that can actually support life on the planet. And it takes a whole lot of us to do that. I was well into my first campaign before I personally realized that that's what a political party is. It's basically just a coalition across many issues, across time and across geography. It's a big enough coalition that can actually get the critical mass to make a difference. There's nothing sort of mysterious about what a party is. It's just a coalition, a big broad one that you keep together over a long period of time. So that's why I think this workshop is really important, and it's really great to see everybody turning out for it. So we were thinking to start off that maybe we would just do a really quick go around, sort of just your name, how long you've been working with the party, and in a sentence, what you hope to get out of the workshop, and maybe that'll just help frame our discussion. So since we got a big group, maybe we'll just make it really, really short and sweet. And if we go like this, don't take it personally. It just means we got to keep moving.
I'm Mike Dunbar. I'm from Brooklyn, Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. I got involved with the Green Party with the Native campaign in 2000. And the thing I'm looking for here is how to grow the party in between elections or maintain the growth during the election campaign. Because the election campaign is when you do the most growth. How do you keep those folks after the campaign and continue to grow between elections?
Great. Good question. Thanks.
I'm Erin. I live in Brooklyn, and haven't done anything with the Green Party before at all. But I think I have a similar thought, like why wait till the election to start, doing. Awesome. Great.
Hi, I'm Marianne. I'm from Brooklyn. I got involved with the Greens about a year ago working on Congressional's Congressional campaign. And I would sort of echo what Michael said as well, learning how to grow the party all in year.
My name is Raina. I'm from Syracuse. I'm pretty new, and I just want to learn. Great.
Hi, I'm Michael, and I live in Brooklyn too. I'm interested in how a campaign can be an opportunity to elevate people's involvement so that they come out of the campaign more involved and maybe have more developed skills for working post-campaign.
Excellent.
I'm Danny, and I'm also from Brooklyn. I think we have and I've been involved since campaign leader in 2000, and just learn.
Yeah, and I'm Patrick Dwyer. I'm running for city council in New York City, and from Brooklyn now. And previous campaigns, worked for city council in Glen Cove, and building the Green Party.
I'm Jeff Perez. I've been involved with the Green Party since '98. I helped with the Grandpa Owls campaign by putting editorials in the paper. And first year I was involved, I was with Pat Dwyer. We both ran for city council in Glen Cove. And I was recruiting people, registering Greens, also minorities, and I'd like to see more minority representation in the Green Party. I'm running for city council in Glen Cove this year.
And I'm Dan Solomon, I'm from Queens. This is my first Green Party function, donating money voting for Green Party candidates. I'm just looking to get involved and help promote the Green Party values at the local level.
Stephen Gallo. I live in another region between Queens and Brooklyn. I worked originally with the Nader campaign in 2000 in the Metropolitan area. So, another county, I don't remember now. And I was overseas for a while. When I came back, I wanted to get involved in the Green Party.
Excellent.
My name is Jacob Vogel. This is my first Green Party event. I'm in law school, so I live in the law library at Oxford University. And just here to learn.
Hi, I'm Tim. I'm from Brooklyn. I attended Brooklyn Green Party meetings for about a few months now. I find myself very well aligned with the party platform, and I'm always interested in learning more about what you guys do. And I'll probably be active in the next upcoming president, race, helping you guys with any type of campaign action you have. That's it. Thank you.
I'm Gloria, also from Brooklyn. Should be growing the party exponentially in Brooklyn. I came to the Green Party from other political milieux in the Nader 2000 campaign and have been a party activist ever since. I here for the same reasons I think both Michael and Michael.
I'm Mark Dunley, and I'm from Postville, New York, though I sometimes say Brooklyn, I guess. I've been active with the Green Party since 1982, and so we can hear some more stories and insightful lessons from the recent campaign.
Hi, I'm Tom Syracuse. I'm the chair of the Manhattan Green Party Local. I'm also on the state committee. I ran for the state assembly a few years ago. This past November, I ran for the state senate. And now I'm hoping to run for city council from my district in Manhattan.
And I'm Jill Stein, and I got recruited, actually, not having been a member of the party. I was recruited in the year 2000 to run for governor in 2002. And all I knew about the party at that point was that it really resonated with me. I was a little bit involved with Nader's campaign, but had never been involved with any political party. And I said, sure, I'll run for governor. Everything else has failed. As a hardworking, advocate for health care and single payer and environment and fighting incinerators and coal plants and, involved with asthma and childhood disability and all these preventable problems. I was, trained as a medical doctor, and then increasingly felt ridiculous giving people pills and pushing them back out to everything that was making them sick. Got involved in the nonprofit world for 10 years or so and saw that we were only moving backwards. And so I said, sure, I'll run for office. Everything else has failed. Why not try that? And sort of started it out of desperation and discovered, wow, it wasn't at all what it was made out to be, that there's really a whole world of people out there just like you and me who are really grappling with a world that's not working for us. It's not supposed to work for us, and it works for us less and less all the time. And there's an incredible hunger out there for a real political voice of integrity and so on. So at any rate, I came out of that election really, really excited about the political will out there to transform not only our politics and our healthcare and our jobs and our economy and the environment and all that. There was just a world of possibility. And then it's been 12 years really of learning how to build a party and running campaigns and realizing that with each campaign we have to build the party and keep building the party, because otherwise we're just starting all over again every time you begin another campaign and we don't move forward. That it's really the party which is our power. The party really harnesses the power. So we'll come back to more on that. And Ursula, your intro.
Oh, I'm Ursula Rozum. I'm from Syracuse. I just ran for office this past fall for Congress, and I did pretty well. I got 8% in a three-way race. And I've been involved with the Green Party since 2010, and I came in at a really good time, and a time when the Green Party was growing, so I really don't have a lot of the horror stories that Ben was telling upstairs. But I don't know, we'll get into the reasons of how we decided to run and all that, but I'll just say that I'm also co-chair of the Young Greens Youth Caucus, so I'm very happy to talk to any younger folks about getting involved with the Youth Caucus and promoting the Green Party among young people, ages 35 and under. Sorry if you're young at heart and you're over that age. yeah, and so I'm going to leave it at that and then get into my development as a candidate in a little bit. And you came in late. So.
This just was just a confusion, but what had happened is I came in the middle of the day. I apologize if it was really, in fact, the reason was I came from New Jersey, and I do live in Jersey City. But some of you here might even know Carol Elaine Gay from the International Union Council, because we had a labor meeting about our union membership and dealing with workers' rights and the minimum wage and everything that's going on in Jersey. So it ties into a lot of what we're doing, because Sherry Honkola saw me at the New Jersey statewide conference that was last December 29th. So I've been active, and I know we've talked many times. And I'm glad I'm sorry I missed this morning, but I'm glad to be here this afternoon.
And what's your name?
My last name is Hunt, H-U-N-T, and my first name is Lawrence. Oh yeah, I don't need that, L-A-U-R-E-N-S.
Okay, welcome, Lauren.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Great. Good to have you here. Wonderful. So we were thinking that we would each talk for about 10 minutes apiece and just talk a little bit about this mix of running campaigns and building the party. And I just want to say it's really great to see the tried and true of the party who've gotten us to this place, and it's really exciting to see people who've never been here before and who are here to check out the party, because this is exactly what we're striving for, is to be a party that's constantly filled with new faces coming in and new people getting involved. So, I'm thinking since there are a lot of new people here, it might help just to sort of tell our stories about what it means to run as a candidate and how we saw ourselves building the party through that. Because I think it's just these sort of human stories that help us connect. So, my story as I started out was, feeling like everything was sort of falling apart. We were trying to close down incinerators and clean up coal plants and warn people about the dangers of mercury and dioxin and other, environmental contaminants, and particularly in freshwater fish, but also in ocean fish and all that. And at first we were making a little bit of progress, but then it just all kind of slammed shut. It really wasn't moving forward at all. And that's when I got recruited to run for the party, knowing really nothing about what it meant to have a party, and or even how to run a campaign. And in the course of that campaign, you learn that you really depend on the party. You cannot sort of reinvent the wheel as a candidate. It's just too much to figure out who do you talk to, how do you raise money, where do you get a campaign manager. There's just a lot of stuff that would be very hard to do on your own. And it turns out, that the parties, the state parties, and to some extent the national party, can provide that infrastructure, can help you figure out where to get the resources from, can provide the database, some training on the legal requirements for running races and so on. And I'll just say what's really, really key, I think, in my experience in running successful campaigns, is having a message that that really resonates with people. And as Ben was saying in the last session, we are at this sort of golden moment right now for the Green Party, where we are being proven right, where everything we've been talking about from the get-go, everything from equal marriage to reining in corporations and taking away these so-called rights of corporate personhood, which were never intended in the Constitution, to cutting the size of the military and bringing our troops home and dismantling the bases and dismantling the drones, restoring our civil liberties, a Green New Deal that would actually create jobs as the solution to the economic crisis, at the same time that it would transition us into the green economy. I mean, this is what we have spent decades developing, these blueprints. And now suddenly, not only are they desperately needed, but also the opposition is being unveiled right now. There's an unmasking that's going on as Obama prepares to approve the Keystone Pipeline, and that's going to be virtually, I mean, basically it's already been given the green light. They've built the southern half. It turns out the free trade agreements make it almost impossible not to, to say no to TransCanada. So there's no doubt Obama is going forward on this. And he's also promoting now this policy of all of the above energy. Are people familiar with that? Does that ring a bell? Just, if others aren't, what it says is that, it's okay to expand fracking and offshore oil and Alaskan drilling and coal in our national parks. All that's okay because he's doing some green jobs on the other side. But that's not the way the climate works. The way the climate works is that carbon dioxide is poison. It's absolutely toxic. And having renewable energy jobs in addition doesn't make any difference. What counts is the burden of carbon dioxide. So we need to be actually de-escalating on an emergency basis. We need to be shutting down our coal plants and oil and not opening up the tar sands, et cetera. These are not okay. They're not only not okay, they're absolutely deadly. So, Obama is continuing to move forward, and it's just staggering to see so much of the climate movement just sort of accept his, his double talk, his lies. And many people are not going to sit there and accept it. So this is really the time for us as Greens to stand up. This is the time to put forward these blueprints for a Green New Deal, et cetera. Perhaps nationalizing our oil companies and all that. These are real discussions that we need to have right now so that we do have a future to look forward to. So it's very exciting as the Democratic Party climate movement is breaking up. This is our time to be stepping forward. So at any rate, it's a great time for us to be formulating that message, and successful campaigns are about harnessing that message, specifically in whatever the campaign is. And it took me a while as a candidate to learn that the reason we run, the reason as a political party we don't just work on issues, but that we also run campaigns, is that ultimately these are political battles. We don't win them by educating people. We have to fight for power. And in fact, we already have the power. That's the good news, is that people agree with us, and it's substantial majorities that agree with us about a national jobs program, for example, about taking really radical action to put a halt to climate change, about restoring our civil liberties, about downsizing the military, about making public higher education free, about ending student debt, about breaking up the big banks, about creating healthcare as a human right through a single-payer system. The public is already there. We have sufficient numbers. If you consider simply that 1 out of every 2 people, 1 out of every 2 Americans is now in poverty or close to it, heading towards it. 37 million students are in debt, and there is no exit strategy. 9 out of 10 jobs that the Labor Department predicts will be created in the next 10 years are not good paying jobs. These are not college degree jobs. 5 out of 10 jobs that will be created in the next decade do not even require a high school degree. And the so-called minimum wage that the president is pushing is a poverty wage. So big deal that it's tied to the inflation level, because people will then be tied to poverty wages. So on all these counts, we have the power, we have support, we have justice on our side, we have people on our side, and the work is all about building the infrastructure, which can do an end run around the media, and just so that people don't feel defeated by that. Remember what happened in the CISPA and the SOPA campaigns, that they were considered a slam dunk. The media wouldn't talk about them. There was absolutely no way that the censorship of the internet was going to be stopped. It was going forward period, until it leaked out on the internet. And, and got onto some big websites. And within a couple of weeks, the bill was absolutely dead in the water. So, we still have the internet. They haven't managed to privatize it yet. There's a huge wake-up call going on, not only around the environment for climate activists, but for just everyday working people, for the 1 out of 2 who are in debt, the 37 million students who are indentured servants, period. So we have the numbers. We have the numbers. It's all about doing the work to get us connected, and it's about formulating the message. So there's every reason for us to feel empowered and powerful. We do have the power. As Alice Walker and many others before her have said, the biggest way people give up power is by not knowing they have it to start with. We actually do have it. More and more people are realizing that they don't have it, that is, the establishment parties don't have it. We do have it. They have nothing to offer. They have no exit strategy for the crises that we are facing. And we actually have the solutions as well. So it is, it really is a golden moment right now, as Ben was saying. And the elections are how we actually challenge power. We say that this is not about a polite debate. This is about actually challenging power holders and saying that they do not deserve power. It's about challenging the spin campaigns that surround their power, especially the fear campaigns that say, oh, you're a spoiler. If you can't win and you're a third party, don't you dare. That argument is losing credibility as it becomes clearer that Obama, for example, gave away more trillions of dollars to Wall Street even than George Bush did, that he has expanded the free trade agreements far beyond what Bush did. He didn't expand the free trade agreements at all. He just implemented them. It was Clinton who started them. The student debt, no difference between the two. On the wars, no difference between the two. Obama has a very, what shall we say, media-friendly persona, and can sort of put the kid gloves on as the knife goes into the back. But the knife is still going into the back, and people are feeling it. And I do this labor show, this labor radio show, America's Workforce Radio, which is a really interesting sign of the times in and of itself. They did some interviews with us during the campaign just because they were, being responsible journalists. And then when the campaign was over and their Republican pundit retired from Congress or the legislature, I'm not sure where he was, but suddenly they had an open slot and they decided not to fill it with another Republican because they just heard the same thing from him as they heard from the Democrats, but to actually fill it with a real opponent. So they invited me to do a regular monthly show on this radio station, and it's just been so exciting to see this love fest, which we have once a month, and they keep taking on our message. And this is an AFL-sponsored radio station, but they keep taking up our message that, that the two parties are basically exactly the same. So word is getting out. It's no secret, to people who are struggling to get out of debt, to keep their homes, to figure out how to afford their health care, to hang on to a job or to find a job. It's no surprise that things are broken. They're extremely broken. The only way that they can stay broken is with the establishment parties continuing to silence us. So the more we organize to fight that silence, and the more we participate in campaigns, because that's one area where they have a very hard time silencing us. They do, but they have a price to pay, and they can't completely silence us. There is a storm which is already, it's not like it's brewing, it's already happening. There is a rebellion going on out there, and it's begging for a political voice. We are that voice. In our campaigns, we build the party. In this last campaign, we've seen Green Party registration go up in just about all of the states, all that we've heard reporting. We've seen our donors go up. We've seen our active candidates go up. Campaigns give us visibility, and then the real struggle is to help people transition from campaigns, which are sort of people-oriented, into parties, which there's sort of a taboo against. You know, people are so discouraged and disappointed with what they know to be political parties, which are all these predators supported by corporations. You know, so the Green Party is a whole different animal. And let me just give you one other quick anecdote that demonstrates this, this awakening that's going on. At the beginning of our campaign, we tried very hard to connect with the Occupy movements and to work with them. And some of them would allow us to come, but we had to be careful not to do any electioneering and not bring flyers or anything like that. And that's kind of where Occupy was for about 6 months. And then Occupy started getting busted and thrown into jail, and, you know, becoming the victim of the federal agencies and Homeland Security and the FBI, and, you know, and then the criminalization of protest, HR 347 was passed, you know. So all these things started happening that was a real wake-up call to Occupy, that we cannot afford to leave any tool unused, and that fighting these battles in the electoral arena is just as important as fighting them out on the street. And in fact, there's enormous history, which Ben was alluding to in his talk, about how the fight in the street, when it gets together with an electoral voice, that's when you have actually transformational change. If you only have a fight in the street, or if you only have an electoral battle, you don't really change things. But when the two are happening and they get together, that's the transformational moment. So at any rate, with Occupy now, Occupy is actually working with us, certainly in New England, very closely, and it's been really exciting to see, and they are running candidates. We're in fact doing a green campaign school for the New England Occupy Convergence taking place in 2 weeks. Many of the occupiers are now Green Party members, have founded the New Hampshire Green Party, for example. So it's been really exciting to see their street skills now the jumping off point for their organization party building skills. And it's a really dynamite, powerful, unstoppable combination. And that's sort of the moment that we're in. I'll stop there and turn it over to Ursula, and then we'll open it up.
Sure, thanks, Jill. I really like that phrase, we can't afford to leave any tools unused, because things are, you know, really pretty bad right now. And I've been registered Green since I've been 18. I'm 29 right now. And I didn't get active with the Green Party until 2010. And I think Mark Dudley and Howie kind of stole me from working for Working Families Party. And you know, one thing that Ben was talking about was the Green Party of New York was in a position to pay a couple people to work on a campaign. And so I would say if you're running for office and you're in a position to pay people to work with you, I think that's a great idea, because it really rewards people, allows them to dedicate the time you need to your campaign. And so one thing I think of as a candidate is that in a way you're the spokesperson for your party and for all these ideas that we all share and for our values. And I like to think that the candidate's role is to educate and agitate, and then the party really needs to be there to help do the organizing work. And I mean, the candidate does that with the party, but as a spokesperson, it's fascinating how people all of a sudden give a shit what you think when you're a candidate for office. I've been active in the local peace movement in Syracuse for maybe about 4 or 5 years now, as well as with the movement to close the School of the Americas. And within the peace movement, especially in the Latin America Solidarity movement, there doesn't seem to be any confusion about the fact that Democrats and Republicans are very similar on issues of war and peace. So I found that to be a fairly sympathetic place to reach out to people and find allies. But that's kind of where I came from, and this kind of feeling of having that knife in your back being twisted. And, I got recruited to be a candidate on accident, really. I was organizing a candidate recruitment workshop with a candidate from Mary Jo Long from a small town of Afton. And she was the one that said, she's like, people really pay attention to what you say when you're a candidate for office. And so I think that's really one way that we can grow the party. As candidates, we let people know that the Green Party exists and they have a choice. And it takes work to get the attention of local media and to get into public debates and forums. And it really depends on the location that you're in. But it does let people know that we exist. And I think that's really the first step in growing the party. And we let people know that they're not alone in feeling that this entire system, political and economic system, is stacked against them. And as a party, we create a space for all those people that share our values to really work together. And there have been independent parties in the past, and they've fizzled. And so in a way, I feel like we are really building the road and figuring it out together. But the great thing is, if you plan your campaign around bringing in new people and new ideas, you have more talent and more ideas to figure out how to build that road, and more people to bring their skills and to learn the kind of skills that we need to build the infrastructure that we need to win. And so I just wanted to share a couple tips that I thought that could be useful if anyone's thinking about running for office or working on a campaign. And this really resonated with me because I've worked on a couple of campaigns, 2 with Howie Hawkins, and one that's my own campaign. And I read somewhere, and I think this is true, that a candidate recruits people to join your party. It recruits people to join the campaign, thanks people, but the candidate really can't be the volunteer coordinator and the organizer. The candidate's the spokesperson and needs to be out there in the streets talking to people. So you have to kind of like people to be a candidate, I think. Or you have to learn to pretend to like people and ask people to help you with and all the other things that need to happen. And you have to get comfortable asking people for their help. You're asking people to help you financially, you're asking people to help you with their time. And so it's really something that you have to get used to, that you're going to be asking people for things. And asking them for their vote, really, and that's probably the first thing. Another important part of being a candidate is having a campaign plan. And depending on your experience and the resources available, it can be very detailed or bare bones, but I think that an important part of the campaign plan, if the goal of your campaign is to grow the party, is to think about the different ways that new people and longtime Green Party members can actively be engaged with your campaign. And I know that some people will say, oh, I don't know how to do this or that. I don't know how to do a database or talk on the phone and that kind of thing. And some people really don't want to develop certain skills and put up mental blocks, but there's also an opportunity to share skills in campaigns. So writing that into a campaign plan can help down the road to have a successful campaign that brings people in. And the one thing that is exciting and kind of scary is that people show up. If you have a strong message, and like we do right now, I think people are ready for our message. I really liked it once when you said, Jill, it's like giving out candy, because people are so ready for it. So people are going to show up, and things are going to change, and we're going to grow, and we're going to have to get used to it. And as newer people, I think it's important to recognize that people that have been around for a long time have experiences that are valuable, that we can learn from, and from people that have been around a few years or decades, new people show up and things change, and we got to figure out how to make it change for the better. So I think that's it. I'll just say that running for office was a really exhilarating experience. It was very exciting. I really like people. I'm so pissed off about what's happening in the world right now that it was very empowering to be able to take on my opponents in public debates and to press my Democratic Party opponent into saying that, yes, we can have regulated fracking. Well, maybe nukes aren't so bad. Putting them on the spot to say who they really are, and it's we have to challenge those in power wherever we can, and eventually we'll win. And I think that just along the way, if we have to think about how our campaigns can be growing the party and not I guess just to grow. You'll either win or you'll grow the party. And I'll just end by saying that I was an accidental candidate in a way, because I got recruited when I was trying to recruit other candidates. And really a lot of it was about putting a new face on our party locally. To show that we're a diverse party, and there's lots, you can, if you're ever considering running for office, there's so much talent and so many intelligent people in our party that can really support you. And so that's it.
Great. I want to just add a couple things, springboarding off of that. That if you run for office, you're doing a really valuable service for the the campaign. To my mind, the campaign is like, the campaign is the party. There is no difference between them. And your campaign and my campaign, there is no ownership of these campaigns. We all just kind of, we work on what's close by and what's sort of upcoming, but it's all this kind of collective amorphous stuff, and the party has tools, the state party and the national party. Not as many tools and volunteers, et cetera, as we'd like, but enough to give you a hand. And in running a campaign, you change the image of the party, you recruit new volunteers who initially are volunteers for your campaign, and then after the campaign, you write them a letter or you have a campaign party. There are just various ways that you help transition them either to the local Green Party chapter or the state party, et cetera, so that you keep working together. One of the most gratifying things to me about this recent presidential campaign was to see that when we continued putting out emails and, encouraging people to weigh in or to contribute to a cause, et cetera, the comments and the responses that we were getting on Facebook and on the email were just as intense. They were at the same numbers that they had been during the election. It was like, just because they held a rigged election doesn't mean that the campaign is over, and it's like, this is the first time for me to see this transition among people, that people were not focused on what are we going to do in this campaign, but rather that this is about how we all work together for the long haul. So you really build that capacity a whole lot when you run. You find donors, and again, when you go out and you fundraise, you're not so much raising donations as you are developing relationships with people who have some spare change to contribute. And it's amazing that some of the biggest and most reliable donors, are the students who are up to their eyeballs in debt, who really get that this is about the future. This is their insurance policy. This is as good as health insurance or a retirement or whatever. There are more and more people in that position. So we raise donors. Training campaign staff is huge. It's very hard to run campaigns with people who are figuring out how to manage volunteers and databases and all that. Really hard to do it on the fly. The party has some capacity to train people, and these workshops are the beginnings of that, and we hope to do more and be able to follow it up more. But that kind of training is huge, and I felt like in my in the presidential race that we achieved as much as we did was because we had some really great people working on the campaign. And in looking for a campaign manager, I felt like it was more important than the candidate. It's harder to find people with campaign manager skills than it is to find candidate skills. So if you like working on campaigns, and in fact, there's a lot of crossover between being a candidate and being a campaign manager. The skills very much transfer from one to the other. It's a great way to learn how to be a candidate, is to be a campaign manager and get the support in order to be a good campaign manager. So strongly think about that. It's a really important focus for us. as a party. And then developing locals is also really critical. If you want to run strong campaigns, you also want to have a local. And you can jumpstart both of them at the same time. Other people will want to work on developing a local and get involved in some local issue, your schools, stopping schools from being closed, you know, the fracking ban, whatever. You maybe want to work on something that has local traction, build a local chapter of the Green Party so that when you then launch a campaign, you've got your base to work with. So, last thing I want to say is that we saw the party in Massachusetts transformed over a period of 10 years. It was an extremely disorganized and chaotic party when we started 10 years ago. And just because you raised the profile of the party through running candidates, we brought in a whole new crop of people, populated our committees, which are really critical for being able to do your media work and your platform work and your policy research and your visibilities. You really need strong committees. We've totally changed the public perception of the Green Party and the capacity of the party to function. So it really does happen. We've seen it happen in real time, and we're starting to see that happen not only at state parties, but at the national level too. So it's really exciting. So with that, should we open up for comments? Yeah, questions.
Thank you both. Really good experience to hear from both of you. So I've been a candidate a few times, and so I just want to, I guess, talk a little bit off of what Ursula and Jill said, and some practical suggestions, but also just kind of raise some questions. So I think we still struggle, with this problem. Certainly, most of my experience is in New York. So, but I ran for office the first time in 2001 for city council, 2003 for city council, 2005 for Borough president, and lieutenant governor in 2010. In 2010, as lieutenant governor candidate, I felt like I was more part of the party campaign operation as opposed to a kind of full-on candidate. But my other three campaigns, I was a very present candidate. They were very credible campaigns. Each time my campaign met the New York City matching funds requirement. So each time I had a 4-to-1 match. For borough president, that was $50,000 I had to raise. So that was important. For us, that was a goal. To continue to say how much more money in Green Party, how much capacity in fundraising infrastructure can we build up in our local party races to be able to contain that. I think that's an important goal. But anyway, go back to, I think it's true, you kind of grow out of these issues that we take up and that many people connect to the Green Party, even though they say they're not part of the Green Party. And then I think as Jill said, we are a political party, so at some point you have to be a candidate standing for those issues and promoting those issues and not just be in the issue group. And then the challenge is when you're not the candidate anymore, and most of the time at the moment, not the elected official, how does that get back? How do you stay in that issue? Because I think, and one of the, it kind of sounds like a silly thing, but I think there's this period of time where when you're the post-candidate, post-campaign, that you use your leverage as a candidate. So the first maybe 6 months after my campaigns, the Green Party meetings or special events or things like that in my area would be called by the local party, but it would often say former Brooklyn Borough President candidate Gloria Matera will be the facilitator, or we'll introduce, we did a film about Walmart at the time. So I introduced the film and led the discussion. So somehow people who were voters, but weren't necessarily interested in the party at the moment, said, oh, I'd like to hear her because I voted for her. I like that candidate. It encouraged the party people to come, and so it was a little bit of a mix. And then when I would go to public events or public hearings, I would say, I'm former candidate, Green Party candidate. I think that for my campaigns, it was not a huge success building the party each time. I think that new people did come. I'm really interested in hearing more strategies to have made that happen more. I think some of the problems are we're not confident enough, and maybe are we strong enough to go back to issue work, but continue to maintain that it's always building, they're connected. Issue work, the campaign comes, issue work, the campaign comes. Greens, unfortunately, tend to fall back into issue work as issue people. They forget that they were flat out killing themselves as Green Party campaign volunteers, candidates, managers, and that, and then somehow, because it's not easy to jump into that kind of liberal, progressive, nonprofit world of issue work. And so that's, I guess, something important that I think is worth talking about. I have many other scribble scrabbles to talk about, but I'll quiet.
I just want to say I so identify with that. And this is a battle that's been going on for years, but in a way I think we're at a very different moment in this battle now, where we have enormous credibility on these issues, whether it's fracking or anything related to climate for sure, and energy, and student debt, and banks. We have enormous credibility, and what some of us are trying to do now is to brand these so-called nonpartisan issue things, bring our Green Party brand there. And one thing that we've been doing, because we've been at a bunch of the pipeline things, and it was just so clear, these are issues where Obama and the Republicans agree. It's all of the above. And it's kill the climate. We are in a very different place, and they don't like us to be there. And the sellout corporate climate movement has collaborated and has kept us off the stage, because to have allowed a Green speaker at the December 17th tar sands protest would have reminded people Obama was off playing golf with tar sands investors and with golf, with natural gas and pipeline moguls. He was, he didn't even have the courtesy to be in DC to hear this. It was an incredible affront to the climate community and an incredible indictment of the strategy that's been pursued by the corporate climate movement. It would have been devastating to them to have reminded people that there is a different way here, a way which is being validated and vindicated. So we've started experimenting with how do we put our imprint on these things, and we've done this, this visibility effort. We've now, Massachusetts and in Maine actually, and New Hampshire, we're developing this flag strategy. We've developed really cheap ways to produce green flags that have printed on them, Vote Green Party. So it's not just about voting green, it's voting Green Party. And we found that when we started handing these flags out in Portland, Maine, for example, everybody wanted them. We could have turned the whole, 1,500 person parade into a Green Party rally if we had had enough flags to distribute. So they may control the microphone, but they don't control the politics in the street. And the politics in the street is very green. We've had this debate in the National Committee and throughout the National Green Party whether we were going to support these events, which are compromised, but they are the hub of communications right now for the climate movement. And we kind of came out of that thinking, they're having it, we've got to be there. If they shut us down, they can't silence us in the street. And that's where this idea came of branding these events. And there are going to be more and more politics happening in the street. Between the Walmart workers walkout and the Seattle teachers boycott of high-stakes testing and the Chicago teachers strikes, things are going from bad to worse no matter what direction you look at. The eviction blockades, the school shutdowns, etc. If we're there as Greens, reminding people that we have the solutions, we've always opposed this. Our leadership is not the cause of this problem. The Democrats, in bed with the Republicans, are causing this problem. The Greens are the source of the solution, not the problem. The more we can have a public face out there in the street, the better. And I'm intrigued with this green flag campaign, because it's like, the Quebec movement, the student movement, to fight debt and rising tuition in Quebec. What did they have? They had the red flag campaign. Exactly. So, yeah, we need our marker too that can't be silenced, because once it's clear that the majority of the people in the rally are Greens, they don't have a leg to stand on in keeping us away from the microphone. Mark and Tony?
I just wanted to make a couple comments. I thought the point that you and Ursula made, a candidate cannot be the campaign manager. And if the candidate is the campaign manager, it means the campaign's not going to do very well. A candidate cannot be the person writing the press releases. A candidate cannot be the person writing the brochures. And you gotta let that go. You gotta give up, the control, which is difficult for the Greens to do. And the Greens tend to run two different campaigns. One is just sort of we'll call it wave the flag, sort of low intensity. And the other one is real serious campaigns. I prefer the latter, and that's what I try to get involved with. But that is really intense on the candidate. And if you're recruiting a candidate to run that type of intense campaign, you must explain it to them that it is going to be intense. It's a life-affirming experience, but you haven't done it before, and it can be really hard. And one thing I always tell candidates if I recruit them, take care of yourself physically and take care of your loved ones emotionally, because these campaigns can be very, very draining on your significant others. And if you get back to it after the election, you may find yourself not having that significant other there. And then the question, the final point that Gloria raised in terms of building the party, you got to build the party during the campaign. You cannot build the party after the campaign, because you're going to lose most of the supporters after the campaign. And so you got to incorporate that into the campaign strategy. And one of your challenges is that many people are supporting the candidate and they're not supporting the party. And you have to work to sort of say, I'm the spokesperson for the party. We appreciate your support. If you're only going to support me, hey, I'll take it. But let me explain to you why the party, is so important. But you will see a big drop off in energy level, right after the campaign. And you should have a couple of things planned for immediately right after the campaign. Some type of victory night celebration, regardless of the thing. But some meetings so you don't spend 2 months trying to put it back together, because it won't occur.
Yeah, a really important thing that I think both me and Jill try to do is to use kind of language that's not like I, me, but this is like our campaign and our vision, what we want, and that part about post-campaign. Be ready, know in like September, August, what you're gonna do the week after Election Day. So, oh my God, how do we pick someone?
I think Tom was next.
Any women want to speak up? Besides Gloria, because lots of men want to talk in this room.
I'll take a second.
Sure. Do I have a stack, Tom, and around the room?
Well, unfortunately, we have to face the reality right now that the Green Party, at least here in New York, has a relatively small group of activists, and we could just do so much. So there is an honest difference of opinion about whether we should run candidates who do not have the resources or the energy or the time to organize to have a well-organized and intense campaign. Whether or not there are people, first of all, there are very few people who are willing to run under any circumstance, and there are very few people who are willing to get involved with those campaigns. But there are a few people, myself included, that are willing to do the paperwork and get ourselves on the ballot. We do have ballot status, but we know that we're we cannot, at this point, have a well-organized campaign, and we're not going to get a lot of votes. So should we bother with it, or shouldn't we bother with it? I personally think that just having the public go into a voting booth and seeing Green Party on the voting line and see that there's somebody there from his district or her district going to run is a good thing. But anyway, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's an important discussion. It's going on all over the country. I can tell you how we handle it in my state, which is where, anybody can run for office, but the party actually decides which campaigns will be Green Party endorsed candidates. And that way it's sort of a seal of approval that says to the public, this is a serious campaign, this represents what the party is about, this isn't simply, free marketplace of ideas, this represents the party. And usually the party decides to restrict its endorsement to those campaigns which are really serious and which the party is going to pour its resources into. That doesn't say that other people shouldn't run for office or that some other purpose is not served. It may very well help just keep the party on the agenda, to have the name there. But I think in a way it's a useful strategy because it allows you to do what Mark was sort of alluding to. There are some people who just want to run to get what you can run out of it, and then there's another level of intense, real work campaign, which is really the focus of the party's energies. And, we're accustomed because we've been going through this lull, and this lull didn't happen by accident. This lull was the response to the threat that Ralph Nader represented that third parties and independent politics would actually be heard. People were terrified about that. And there was an incredible pushback and a fear campaign that really tried to silence us and all other third parties. But we're coming out of that lull right now. And a biggest part of that transition is young people who have just a whole different kind of energy because the rest of their lives are at stake. Unlike those of us, and I would put myself in that gray-haired category, where a lot of us are coasting right now. For young people, it's dead serious about whether there is going to be a planet here in 10 years or not. And to my mind, we don't need to resign ourselves to an exhausted party. We're not an exhausted party. We are a thriving, alive, fighting angry party. And it's all about developing the infrastructure to help bring that new energy into the party.
So I just want to say it's almost 25 to 2. We said that an hour would bring us to 1:30, and that's when lunch officially starts. Did people want to go the other 15 minutes so that we have a full hour and 15 minutes, and lunch will just be a little bit shorter? And then maybe you can the facilitators might just figure out how many more people can get a chance to speak in the next. It's probably really 12 minutes now.
So, thumbs up if you want to extend 12 minutes. If you really want to leave, can we let them go?
Yeah.
Okay, get the hell out of here.
You must stay, bar the door.
And we will keep it strictly to 12 minutes.
Okay,
So
great. So, I know we have a bunch of questions, and
maybe we should just get all the questions
yeah,
out.
raise your hand if you have a question,
And let's get all the questions out,
and then
we'll
respond.
to the-
Okay.
Yeah,
Want to just go around the room?
great.
So do you want me to give you 2 minutes to at the end to respond?
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Comments, questions? Go ahead, Erin.
I guess I just wanted to ask about, when independent parties can debate with larger parties. They sort of are generally not allowed to, but with stuff like, I saw you debating against people and Democracy Now! Expanded debate. How can we do that? Even if we're not allowed, we debate anyway. So.
I'm curious about how now that we're at a place where we're trying to we're doing recruiting, we're deciding what campaigns we're interested in, what campaigns are tangible. And it's, in my experience in our county, there's a couple different elections and there are a couple core people, but in my experience, I want to be really dedicated to one campaign in particular, but I don't know where skill sets are or how to allocate them or where to go with that, and I don't know what to do about that.
Great, okay, good question, good. I think conventionally, a candidate comes along and they sort of have their own organization, people they want to have their campaign and some experience, and as we reach out to, say, more useful candidates, what do you think about providing teams for people who may not have their own campaign teams?
What we need, and I've saying this before, money, money, money. My last campaign, I lacked the money. I mean, and the last week, unfortunately, was the hurricane. I had to assist my fire department with stuff, but lawn signs, I needed money for that. What can we do next year? Because next year New York is a very vital, important thing. We need to get 50,000 votes, and how can we get the money and everything else to achieve this?
Okay. Well, in my district specifically, the biggest third-party vote was for actually a socialist party. Now, they don't do anything. People just vote for them because they're there. And I see potential there. But what I think is important is that sometimes the Green Party is considered to the left of the Democrats, which it is. But then we have competition with other leftist parties. And I think as a form of strategy, it would be very good to work with the people who are more similar to our, ideology. But at the same time, you don't want to scare people who might be way too far left. So it's kind of like, what would the state and national party look at if our primary association is with the Green Party and building it? What is the extent that we could work with other parties and build something much larger?
I guess what I think is the question is how we can best educate voters, because I'm thinking of it in terms of issues, getting people involved. I mentioned what I came here from in New Jersey, and it had to do with union labor and organized labor collective bargaining, is how to convince voters to understand that if we raise minimum wage, that'll actually help create jobs, not be a job destroyer. They're getting a lot of information that civil service is already driving up property taxes because of union labor, that's really helping stabilize communities, and it helps purchasing power, and it actually helps businesses. So how do we best get voters to understand that and absorb that in their decisions about voting for these candidates and getting involved?
Great. Any other thoughts? These are all really wonderful questions. You want to?
Sure. About the question about debates, I want to answer because I had the fortune of getting into all the local debates, and actually one of my candidates opponents got slammed because he refused to participate in debates with me, which was a story in itself. But with depending on the size of the race, my congressional race had a very large geographic area, so we decided early on that we were going to do our best to get media attention, to reach as many voters as possible. And once the media knew I existed and our campaign existed, was when we got into the debates. So that was, a very strategic thing that we did in the very beginning. And then on a larger scale for debates, I don't know.
The issue is it's kind of a slam dunk because people are clamoring for open debates, and we're horrified by the mockery of a debate that took place. It was just hard to find the differences between them. It was outrageous. I don't know if you've seen the debates that Amy Goodman did, but she's got 3 debates that are still up on their website, and Free and Equal from the Libertarian end sponsored some debates. Nader did a debate, hosted a debate. They were really fun and exciting, and as people would discover them, you know, they were just so liberating. So, you know, we need to take on the Commission on Presidential Debates, et cetera. You know, it's just another symptom of the shutdown system. Yeah, what were you going to say?
I was just wondering, in that vein, I know that the Obama campaign sent out a lot of emails about like, can we host a viewing party for this debate? Would you do anything like that? You know, 'cause that would be really like people or event spaces or bars or anything, just like hosted a, you know, show of the debate of that nature.
Absolutely, and you know, there are all kinds of ways that you can move on this. A lot depends on sort of the scale. Nader was trying to organize municipal hosted third-party debates and independent, you know, try to get everybody in on it. But there's a humongous amount of interest, and it sort of goes hand in hand with building the party. The more people we have involved, the more strategies and techniques that we can use. We got arrested, you know, at Hofstra in order to help the issue go viral, and it really did help. And everybody agrees with us. And, you know, in my first governor's race in 2002, I was allowed into the debate, and we were being voted winner in the instant online viewer poll, and then they took us out of the debate. You know, and that's just the way it works, because as Greens, we will win these debates. We are going to win them, and utilizing the institution of the debate will be very helpful. And they realize how vulnerable they are, so they will fight tooth and nail to keep us out. But the more of us that are organized on the outside, you know, 1 out of every 2 people who are in poverty, 37 million students, you know, in debt, the more we're working together as organized constituencies, the more we can create these things. They're simple, they're relatively simple to do. The key is, you know, being organized to do it.
So the next question is about deciding which campaigns are tangible and choosing how to allocate your energy.
Yeah, you know, that's a really good question. Without knowing the details of the campaigns, it's hard to say, but one thing you may want to do, because campaigns are such personal affairs, you know, a lot just depends on your chemistry with the campaign. If you're going to really, you know, turn your life upside down to make the campaign the center of it, which is what you often wind up doing in these things. They become a lot of fun. You get very involved. You want to just know the candidate and, you know, talk to them and see what they're about, and just, you probably have a spectrum of skills, and the campaigns can probably use them all, and you can get a sense for where the fit is better, but at the end of the day, it's going to be sort of, I think, the chemistry of, you know, just how excited you are about the person you're working with, and do they make you feel like you're a part of the team?
Yeah, that's a great answer.
Okay.
Anne's question was, how do we, when candidates sometimes have their own organizations, how do we feel as a party about assigning campaign staff, that kind of thing, or advisors to candidates? Was that kind of the question?
Yeah. Well, do you want
I think it can be challenging because, you know, our personalities are, you know, I think people want control over their lives and what they're doing, but trying to show that as a party we have a lot of experience to offer. So, and that, you know, our more experienced people can really teach people the ropes, because ultimately we want to have successful campaigns. But I know it can be challenging to, like, you know, get that message across.
There are some local chapters and state parties that have tried to hire staff collectively. And there are barriers to this in the campaign finance laws, but they're not absolutely prohibitive. There are ways that advisors can be hired to help support new campaign managers who really don't have experience and would have a very hard time just operating on their own experience. If they have an Uber campaign manager, it could be huge, and the same goes for treasurers and so on. I think it begs to be done right now. In our state, we're trying to figure out if we have the funding to do this, but it would be absolutely huge in terms of enabling people to run more credible and successful campaigns, for sure. It's a great idea, and I hope we follow up on it. Okay, thank you.
last questions were about raising money and leftist unity. We did a
Yeah.
workshop on fundraising this morning, and we talked about having a plan and figuring out how to do it in a way that it feels more like organizing and that invites people to be a part of something. Because we have to learn to like fundraising, because it's not that bad.
Well, and the secret is to not think of it as fundraising. It's about resource sharing. And as a candidate, you're sharing a campaign, which is a public resource for advancing our vision in this fight for our lives. And we're all in this fight for our lives right now, and people increasingly recognize it. And, you know, if you can put together a credible campaign and offer it to people and let them know about this really exciting thing that's happening, and then, you know, I never make a hard ask. I never say, you know, I need you to contribute money. I just say this, you know, this is this really exciting thing that we're launching. If you're in a position to be able to support it financially, that would be really terrific, and there's great stuff we can do. And I find fundraising is really fun because I think of it as just a chance to check in with people who share the vision with you. And they depend on you to advance that vision in the way that we depend on them to help provide resources for it. So if you think differently about fundraising, it becomes much easier to do and not such a pain. And then the thing about the socialist and the leftist parties, we're seeing this happen actually all over the world, where leftists, you know, socialists and Greens are getting together. And in this country, because socialists, like other third parties, have basically been wiped out as national parties, we've sort of become the repository of electoral efforts for socialist-leaning people and people with a socialist agenda. The New York Greens are full of them. You know, we talk about red Greens.
Watermelons.
Exactly. And you'd never know it. So it's happening. It's very exciting. We're working with the eco-socialist contingent right now on just responding to the climate crisis. And the chemistry of these alliances is really, really exciting. So I think we're going to, it's happening sort of naturally, and it's got a life of its own. So it's off and running. So thank you all so much. Stay in touch.